I love rugby this time of year because, yeah, the trophies are handed out, but before you get there to the big money matches, you have the race for the playoffs, and some massive games have just happened over the weekend, and there's some huge ones in the next few weeks in the URC. Have a look at the table and see just how tight things are. There are 10 teams still gunning for those 8 spots. Ospreys, with their defeat, are now out of it. They're done. They lost to Leinster and they're not going to make it. But 10 teams could make it into the 8. And I'd basically split the table up into the top 5 and the bottom 5. You could argue the top 4 and the bottom 6. I think Stormers will be all right. But the 5 teams here, Ulster down, Ulster, Edinburgh, Benetton, Connacht and Lions, they're battling to try and get in the top 8. 2 of those teams are going to miss out. The top 5, they're all jostling for position for home advantage in the first round of playoffs and in the semi-final as well. So massive matches ahead. And I'm going to go bottom to top, team by team, and rate the chances of each in making it to the playoffs and where I think they'll end up as well. And just highlight some of the big fixtures that are coming up. So if you appreciate your URC, if you love your domestic rugby and you want to help spread the word, give the video a thumbs up. That really helps. Let's have a look then at the team in 10th currently. It's Lions, who did everything they could this weekend with a win against Cardiff. Crucially, a couple of late tries mean they got the try bonus point, which could be really important. And I think the Lions, if they win their last 2 games, they're in. That's easier said than done because the 2 teams they have to play against are Glasgow at home and Stormers away. They haven't got to leave South Africa, so that's a big bonus, and Stormers are travelling currently. So they know they've got that, but, well, I'll come to Glasgow in a bit. They're going to face a very motivated Glasgow team and a derby match against the Stormers. That's going to be an intra-South Africa game. That's going to be tasty, and there could be a lot on the line for both teams in that final match. Will they make it? That remains to be seen, but they definitely could. And, well, I would actually, just on the strength of the fixtures that are remaining, I would actually rate Lions' chances of getting into the top 8 higher than Connacht, who are 1 place above them in the table. Connacht in 9th, heavy defeat to Munster this weekend. But yeah, I rate their chances of progressing lower than the Lions because they have got these Stormers at home and then they're away to Leinster, which is a pretty tough fixture list. The only thing that changes the picture is that they're going to face Leinster 6 days after Leinster play in a Champions Cup final. So I think there's a reasonable chance that Leinster will rest up all of their big guns for that game against Connacht. Potentially. I do think that could well be the case. If that is the case, that gives Connacht a chance, and other teams will be thinking that's just rotten luck for them, not least the Lions and other teams that are around them. And I'll come to Ulster in just a minute. But it all depends on the team Leinster put out and what Connacht can do at home to the Stormers in the next round. So 1 place above them is Benetton. They got a massive win at the Sharks this weekend. Absolutely huge. They were 9 points behind with, I think, 8 minutes to go. And they managed to get the win. 10 points in those closing stages. There was a red card for Costa in that match for the Sharks as well. Absolutely huge. And you can see just what it means to the Benetton team after that one. And they have given themselves a shot with that. I think if they lost, they're staring down the barrel. And the Sharks didn't evidently want to do the Lions any favours at all. So Benetton are in 8th. They're away at the Bulls in the next round. Then they're home to Edinburgh. 1 win out of the 2 should be enough. Will they get it at the Bulls? Not convinced about that. At home to Edinburgh? Yeah, you might think you'd make them favourites for that one. And that game is huge because let's not forget. In fact, let's look at the table again. Just think of that last game against Edinburgh. Benetton v Edinburgh. They are currently 7th and 8th. Separated by razor-thin margins. And yeah, that could be a shootout. And the good thing for the teams below them, Connacht and the Lions, is that they know one of these teams will unless there's a draw, one of these teams is going to lose, and a win, they might be able to leapfrog. So, really interesting stuff. So, Benetton done what they can this weekend, but they've still got it all to do. Edinburgh, well, they're going to be home to Munster in the next round, and then away at Benetton, that knife edge match, as I was talking about. That they hammered Zebre, the poorest team in the competition. Full 5 points for them, puts them back in playoff contention. But big games ahead. Ulster on 49 points. They beat the Scarlets. Probably done enough already for the top 8 because other teams play each other, as I've mentioned. A bonus point in one of their last 2 games and they'll be all right. But they'll want to push to solidify their spot in the top 8 and maybe even sneak an outside chance of a top 8, a top 4. But that's unlikely to happen because they have got Leinster at home and then Munster away. And here's the difference between Ulster and Connacht. Connacht are likely or more likely to face a Leinster team with loads of players rested. I think Leinster will want to get the job for the playoffs done against Ulster and then rest up after the Champions Cup final. So I think, I've just got this feeling Leinster are going to go full bore against Ulster, which is bad news for them. Although I was quite impressed with how they played Ulster. They've had a difficult season with all the stuff going on off the pitch. They've had a lot of key players injured. Stephen Kitsoff deciding to leave. Again, that's all tied up with the financial situation there. But they're with a flat track, they've got a good attacking team. And yeah, they could do something. We'll see. We'll see. It's been difficult for them. The Stormers, Marnie Libbok, grabbed that team by the scruff of the neck. What was it, 19 points from him, 44-21 win away at Dragons. 3 tries in the last 8 minutes, so it was not as comfortable as the scoreline suggested. Marnie Libbok, like I say, very, very influential in that one. They are in 5th spot, 50 points. So if they go and lose their form, they could be dragged down and it could be nervous in that last match against the Lions. But if they get a win away at Connacht next weekend, they could be in with a shout of getting a top 4 spot. And that is absolutely what the Stormers will be thinking that they're going there to do. Away at Connacht and a win away at Dragons would represent a really good return from a European trip, which they've historically not been very good at. They don't want to leave it to that last day, do they? So yeah, Stormers got some class players. They've got some big guns that can come back. And it was the big guns for the Bulls as we move into the top 4 who did the job for them. 40 points to 34 win against Glasgow Warriors. Their attack is absolutely immense. Defence, Bulls have got a little bit of work to do, haven't they? They could definitely improve there. But their back 3 is so well balanced. Kanan Moody, Kurtley Arendse is just a rugby cheat code. And Villy LaRue, the old head, wily character, great second distributor. And yeah, I mean, they'll be disappointed that they let Glasgow come away with 2 bonus points. And I think Glasgow will be very happy with those 2 bonus points. It's enough to keep them top of the table and in contention for a top 2 spot. Bulls could have taken both of those bonus points away from them by just not switching off defensively in those closing moments. But attacking wise, good signs from the Bulls. They're going to have to try and take their form on the road though. Not out of South Africa, they'll be pleased to know that they're home to Benetton, then they're away to the Sharks in that final game. Now for the Sharks, that will be a week after the Challenge Cup final, so they'll be travelling back from London. Possibly, does that mean they're going to rest their South African internationals? You know, there's big games against Ireland coming up in just a matter of weeks after that. So I think that could be good news for the Bulls, that they could face a depleted Sharks team when they do go down to Durban. I think they're looking up the table. I think they're looking up to try and get a top 2 spot rather than looking down and trying to protect a top 4 spot. 2 wins and there is a sniff at, like I say, home quarter-final and home semi-final in the playoffs, which for the Bulls would be absolutely massive. The teams that are trying to stop them from doing that are, well, first of all, Munster in 3rd place, the champions. And this is an unbelievable stat. The game at the weekend against Connacht was the first game that RG Snyman has started at Thomond Park during his time there, his injury-blighted time there, and he's only got a couple of games left at Thomond Park. That's why they will want to get a top 2 spot, Munster, if they can, because then they'll know they've got semi-final advantage should they make it there. 2 wins, they're on a hot streak. I think they could get those wins. They're away to Ulster. They're away to Edinburgh. And then they're home to Ulster. I think they will win both of those games. And that could well be enough for 2nd spot. Because when you move to Leinster, who are in 2nd at the moment, as I mentioned, they're away to Ulster. I think they'll go strong and they'll win that game. And I think they're home to Connacht, where they could put out a B-side. And Connacht could well win that one. And Munster could leapfrog them. That is definitely one of the things to watch in the last couple of rounds. Glasgow, they are top. They got their 2 points against the Bulls. That and the fact that they play Zebre on the last game means that they're pretty much guaranteed 5 points against Zebre. They're such a poor team, and I think that's going to be enough to get them top 2. Those bonus points at the Bulls were absolutely huge. They'll see what they can get out of the Lions next weekend. A win against the Lions, and I think top spot is Glasgow Warriors. So the hunt for second. Let's just have a recap and have a look at that table again. It's getting really interesting, isn't it? It's the hunt for second place. If Glasgow can get that win against the Lions, which isn't a gimme, then it could be a fight between Leinster and Munster for second spot. Stormers maybe trying to sneak above the Bulls is another little story. The one interesting thing is what Leinster team is going to be put out against Ulster and Connacht, and how different might they be, and what influence could that have on the table. And that last day match between Edinburgh and Benetton could be absolutely box office. Who do you think is going to make the top 8, top 4, top 2, win? There's some massive games ahead, and bring them on. I will see you on the next video.